Commemorating martyrdom, standing against tyranny. Iranians marking the holy day of Ashura. Many here have in their minds not just the death of Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, but those killed in the war with Israel too. Others in this country feel they have the most to fear from their own rulers. Since the war ended, hundreds of people have been accused of facilitating Israel's strikes on the heart of the regime. Here, a news report airing what's likely to be forced confessions. A paranoid, weakened system, eliminating any threat to its survival. Amongst those detained, outspoken critics of Iran's clerical establishment. Like Hossein Ronaghi, here speaking to an opposition TV station before the war, and Motahare Gunei, a student activist previously jailed during the Women Life Freedom protests. We spoke anonymously to some of those in Iran about the climate of fear.
Patrols and checkpoints are active on the streets. In just a 30 minutes round trip, you may encounter 3 checkpoints, plus there are roaming patrols. The atmosphere in the city is as if we're living inside a giant military base. Everything is dominated by this security and military presence, and a huge fear.
The massive bombs and missiles Israel launched did terrify Iranians, including those opposed to the regime. And many, even now, are still afraid the war will resume.
We're living in complete uncertainty. We don't know whether the situation will escalate back into full-scale war or move towards a lasting truce. Life feels like a limbo. War could break out again at any moment. It's not just me. This feeling is everywhere.
Earlier this week, Iran's supreme leader made his first public appearance since the war ended. On his order, a patriotic song is performed, originally composed by an opponent of the regime. Iran's theocratic rulers are cynically attempting to play into a sense of national pride, evoking ancient Persian imagery that in the past they've dismissed.
It also is riding high on a wave of nationalism, but instead of using this moment as a moment of reconciliation, of strengthening the base of the political system, it is opting to pursue repression, which is bound to eventually backfire against the system.
Angry and wounded, the regime is also targeting the most vulnerable in Iran. Hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees and migrants pushed back across the border. A deportation campaign was already in place, but it's massively accelerated since the war, following allegations some Afghans collaborated with Israel. The security forces beat us and insulted us, says this man, saying, "You filthy Afghans, go back to your country." Many Afghans have lived in Iran for decades. Others came more recently in search of work or fleeing the Taliban. This man was a former officer in the Afghan army.
We're worried day and night that, God forbid, we get caught by the Iranian authorities and are sent back to Afghanistan. It's not safe for me to return. Maybe some Afghans were recruited by Israel, but now we've all become victims of the situation.
Israel's war has left many inside Iran facing off against a vengeful regime. This, a song just released by a dissident rapper who's been in and out of jail. Despite the arrests, he says, "We're still here." For now, so too are the country's embattled rulers.
Now, Iran poses a rising threat to the UK through assassinations, kidnap attempts and cyber attacks, according to Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee. It warns that the physical threat to opponents of the Iranian regime and Jewish and Israeli interests in the UK is now comparable to that posed by Russia, and says the government needs to take it more seriously. Joining me now is our senior political correspondent, Paul McNamara. Paul.
Yeah, so the first thing to note about this report is that it only covers a period of 2022 through to August 2023. So it doesn't cover the impact of the October 7th attack by Hamas. It doesn't cover the recent Israel-Iran conflict, which has only heightened tensions. Even then, though, the committee's findings are punchy. Essentially say Iran poses a persistent and unpredictable threat to the UK. To give you a flavour of it, there's one slightly surreal section where they're quoting someone from the intelligence community who uses a football analogy, saying the threat Iran poses to the United Kingdom would be top of the Championship rather than the Premier League, but rising. And what Iran has is a risk appetite, which is very pokey indeed. The report says that the UK is a priority for cyber attacks, particularly on our petrol and finance sectors. Any attacks on those would be highly destabilising. The most striking section, though, says that in the time period they looked at, there were 15 murder or kidnapped attempts by people within the UK. A big increase in physical threats to anyone who opposes the regime and the use of proxies, so organised crime groups and terrorist organisations.
What does the report say about the UK's response to Iran?
Lacking, essentially. So, the report accuses the government at the time of prioritising crisis management and firefighting. It says essentially the government's going to have to do more, and we're on the back foot. There has been a response from the Iranian embassy in London saying the suggestion that Iran engages in or supports acts of violence, espionage or cyber aggression on British soil or against British interests abroad is wholly rejected. Such accusations are not only defamatory, but also dangerous, fueling unnecessary tensions, undermining diplomatic norms. This report says diplomatic norms are being undermined, but it's not the UK doing it.
Paul, thanks very much.